Hi, I'm Shannon Kane. To nobody's great surprise, the hardcore right-wing conservative crowd recently got themselves worked up into a tizzy again. This time they were all aflutter over President Obama's speech to the students of America. For them, it quickly devolved into a contest of who can scream socialist the loudest. It's pretty clear that the bulk of this crowd is scarcely conversant with the economic theoretical base behind socialism, possess a rather slippery grasp of the term, and are merely parroting whatever drools from Rush Limbaugh's rubbery, bloated lips. We were treated to what might as well have been frantic cries of, "The sky is falling," and then, after 1,000 ludicrous displays of public paranoia, Obama gave the dreaded speech. And the world didn't come to an end. Go figure. What galls me about this deranged scenario is the censorship that accompanied it. At any other point in American history, in other words, any point prior to the Obama administration, young people were encouraged to pay close attention to the President of the United States. Teachers and parents urged young people to view the President as a role model, to listen to what he's saying. But that was then, and this is now. A number of schools across the nation, including some in this area, were ridiculously cautious about allowing students access to Obama's speech. Across the nation, a number of school districts banned it altogether, while others wouldn't show it to their students until the day after the speech was made because it had to pass the scrutiny of local censors first. Heaven forbid there might be anything intelligent in that speech, because the kids might accidentally soak it up, and we can't have that. I encountered one parent whose child came home saying that their history teacher banned all discussion of Obama's speech, giving the excuse that history only deals with events in the distant past and not current affairs. Clearly that idiot got their teaching license out of a cereal box. There are parents and school administrators alike who decline to allow children a chance to view Obama's comments or even discuss them. People, we do not live in some third world hellhole in which censorship is acceptable. And censoring the President of the United States is a new low. The real losers, of course, aside from the ones who publicly embarrassed themselves by stirring up this tempest in a teapot in the first place, are the students to whom Obama was delivering his address. Instead of allowing students to hear the address and discuss it, some people chose to just censor it instead. And they got away with it. One more educational opportunity right down the drain. What these people are really saying is that they think the students of America, apparently including their own children, are too stupid to weigh the evidence and draw their own conclusions. Kids are not 1/4 as unenlightened as people like to pretend they are. There's no sane reason why an intelligent 8-year-old can't discuss politics. Granted, there are good reasons why that same 8-year-old can't vote, but children need to be as aware as anyone else of what's going on in the country in which they reside. We have a president who's willing to address young people, and all of a sudden folks act as if he's using the public airwaves to sacrifice a live goat to Satan. I guarantee you that if the same scenario had happened while Bush was in office, either President Bush, children would have been handed miniature flags, issued red, white, and blue t-shirts, and been expected to watch every moment of the president's speech. There would have been a pop quiz afterwards. Banning it would have been not only unthinkable but unpatriotic. But these same people only trot out patriotism when it suits their agenda. The same people who've been chiding protesters for being unpatriotic are now the same ones exalting the virtues of that most un-American of all practices, censorship. They're howling, "My kid's not going to be indoctrinated with liberal propaganda." Right. Chances are your kid's not going to be educated either. Not when you treat a presidential address as if it were a porn video. Don't allow entire classrooms an opportunity to even hear the speech and continuously tell young people what to think. Did it even occur to people to watch the speech with their children and use it as a springboard for rational discussion? No, of course not. That'd involve intelligent conversation, educational ability, and parenting skills. The address to the students wasn't Obama's only recent speech. He spoke again, this time to the grown-ups. Not that you would have guessed many actual adults were in that audience. A braying South Carolina jackass by the name of Joe Wilson shouted at Obama as he spoke. Other GOP members could be seen arrogantly texting messages and otherwise disrespecting Obama during his speech. Maybe I'm old school, but even the lowest goat-roping hillbilly doesn't shout down the President of the United States. And this wasn't some hick they scraped from the underside of a rock, but an actual elected official. Look, I've never disguised the fact that I personally think George W. Bush was one of the most pathetic specimens to ever occupy the presidential chair. But not even in my most fiery moments of opposition would I have attempted to heckle him during a speech. First off, I was present that day in kindergarten when we learned about politeness. Even when you're facing your worst opponent, your opposition is still a human being who deserves a chance to be heard. Let them speak. You'll have your chance to make a rebuttal soon enough. But interrupting a speech by shouting? On what planet is this deemed acceptable? Secondly, regardless of what you may personally think of Barack Obama, he is the President of the United States. There have been presidents in my own lifetime with whom I've sharply and publicly disagreed, but you don't shout during a presidential speech. Yes, I know the left has done it too, and just like the right, they should be taken out and kicked in the seat of the pants. Let the man speak, then deconstruct his arguments. Not only is he the president, but he's a human being and therefore worthy of being afforded a chance to speak. Even people whose agendas completely nauseate me have the right to speak their mind without imbeciles interrupting them. Had it even been a question and answer forum, it might have been different, but it wasn't. Yes, Joe Wilson has a right to speak, and I fully support that right. But he also has an obligation to conduct himself like a socialized human being. He could have held a press conference after the speech, given a speech of his own, issued a written summary of his objections, posted a blog entry, or any of the other things that civilized people do when they disagree. But the man was completely out of line, and people wonder why the right wing is taken about as seriously these days as My Little Pony. One thing is clear. The country appears to be polarizing into an unprecedented right versus left dichotomy. Some people claim that the majority of Americans are neither right nor left, but are moderates. I disagree. Most Americans aren't moderates. They're completely apathetic. We're talking couch potatoes who are more interested in American Idol than politics and care more about pro wrestling than international affairs. Barack Obama isn't sponsored by Disney and doesn't have his own reality show, so who cares about him? Meanwhile, the extreme right and left are squaring off against each other like the rival gangs in West Side Story, and with similar effectiveness. Their blustering comes off like a choreographed song and dance routine. There are moments when the far right becomes scary. In their hands, half-baked militias are growing like toadstools, and fear-based propaganda abounds. As for the left, few people have little use for political correctness, and I personally detest weak, wimpy, hand-wringing position statements. Sitting around in your Birkenstocks weeping over the plight of the transgendered whales accomplishes exactly nothing. Folks, I don't think Barack Obama's made of gold. If I did, I would have voted for him. But at least he's trying to do something. If you think he's doing it wrong, then by all means do speak out. But try doing it intelligently. We can't go around behaving like barnyard animals. It's time for people from all sides, and I'm not going to say both sides, because despite media hype, there are more than two sides to politics, more than two political parties, and more than two approaches to anything on earth. To calm down, take a deep breath, and relax. The nation won't be healed by paranoia, fear-mongering, and hostility. Only by rational discussion, calm analytical dialogue, conceding at times when the opposition makes a good point, and generally acting like decent human beings will we make any noticeable progress. When the extremists have finally been crushed beneath the wrecking ball of their own absurdist rhetoric, those individuals and groups who have remained calm all along are the ones who will be left standing. Thank you.